I have a list of things that are considered witchcraft in a marriage. I want to give a shout out to Anointed Fire, honey. That sister Tiffany Buckner, she spit some gold on her stuff with spiritual warfare and stuff. So I took a bunch of notes and I wanted to share this with my audience about how witchcraft is ruining marriages. Because I've experienced this myself and I know people who deal with this. So I think this is important for everybody to know. So if you're not gonna watch her and her couple and a half hour lives, I'm gonna give you a quick rundown of what the Lord gave me and what I learned from her and watching other powerful speakers. So one of the main things that is witchcraft, not just in marriage, just in general, is complaining. People don't realize how demonic it is to complain. And I'm not talking about where you're just telling a story. I'm talking about when you're talking about how miserable you are and this is so hard and I'm so tired and all my health problems, and you are glorifying the devil. And if that's all your partner is hearing from you, you're doing something to them. You're breaking down your own faith and you're breaking down their faith. So that complaining demon is a powerful demon on a whole lot of folks. Just ungratefulness in general is where complaining comes from, and it's a form of witchcraft, where because you're stirring up demons around you and you're glorifying the devil. So that's one. And I think a lot of women are guilty of this, but not being forthcoming about your feelings. I'm guilty of this, definitely. Something I have to constantly be mindful of is, am I being honest about how I really feel about situations? Because I'll shut down. And listening to Sister Tiffany, realizing, okay, that is a form of witchcraft where I'm trying to um manipulate a situation or wanting people to think something that isn't. So learning, I got to open my mouth more. So not being forthcoming about your feelings. Um, yeah, trying to put things in a way that, yeah, it's manipulative. Just be honest about your feelings. Me and my husband were just talking about this. Be honest about your feelings. It's just as simple as that. This is a lot of couples do to each other. Giving the cold shoulder or silent treatment, and that's something I've done too. Because when I get upset, I shut down. And I have to learn, speak up, say how you feel, let you put your feelings, your emotions aside and speak rationally. Hey, what a man, what he say? You can't be ungrateful being in a marriage. For real. It's so true because that person will constantly feel like everything they're doing is not enough. So you absolutely have to be grateful for everything. And if you're in a relationship and your spouse is only spitting ungratefulness and complaining about everything, could you imagine what that does to your faith? Lord. But yeah, the silent treatment, we should not be silent on each other. We should be talking, we should be communicating. It's um a form of control where I'm not going to speak to you. I'm going to, like how Tiffany was putting it, it's a form of punishment. We ain't we ain't got the power to be punishing nobody. What? That's crazy, but that's what so many people do. Gifts with conditions or the intent to control, where your spouse is buying stuff for you either after an abusive situation or in order to get you to do something, and not just out of the pure love of because you need it or because I want you to have something. When you're doing stuff with conditions with the purposes of controlling someone is witchcraft. Um, Emotional witchcraft, the spirit of offense. I was talking about this a couple weeks ago. The spirit of offense. And I didn't really think of it as witchcraft, but it makes sense. Where you're constantly offended, everything offends you, and most people, the first thing they do when they get offended is think ill of the person that offended them instead of listening holistically to what's being said. We get offended. And emotional witchcraft, tears, when you're crying for the purposes to get someone to do something you want them to do, crying, uh which I think a lot of women do, men too, I think. When you hear stories about women breaking up with somebody and the man, oh, we got divorced or we broke up, and then he called back like, oh, I got cancer, I'm sick now, you gotta, so now she feeling guilty, so now she thinks she got to go back. So everybody use it. Sexual witchcraft, either giving or withholding sex with conditions. I wouldn't say it's just women, but I think it's mostly a women issue, withholding sex. But I know men do it too, because you hear women complain like, he ain't, I'm not getting enough from him, or it's not long enough. And you hear a lot with women that have been in narcissistic relationships, that he wants to control the situation so he doesn't have sex with her. And it's the same with women, using sex as a control mechanism instead of as a tool to pleasure your spouse, and to build us up intimately and spiritually. If that's not your reason for doing it, it's a form of witchcraft. So it's so interesting, all these things. Gossip, speaking ill of your spouse or ill to your spouse of other people. um yeah, yeah. Now, it's one thing when you tell the truth about somebody, but when you going around telling everybody about all your spouse's business and all the dirty stuff your spouse got going on, um, that can put a weight on your relationship. So, um, you got to be mindful of that stuff. It's one thing if you're in a dangerous situation and you are telling someone like you need help, like, I need help. My husband, my wife is abusive. I don't feel safe. That's one thing. But if you're just telling your spouse's business, yeah, uh, what to do with that? And it gives other people the wrong impression of your spouse, and it just makes you look crazy complaining about your spouse, but you with somebody that has all this stuff going on, and you ain't leaving, cheating or whatever, but you ain't leaving. What you want people to do? I'm like this, with people that I've dealt with in infidelity. I'm like this: if it's not enough a problem for you to leave right when it happens, why are we complaining about it? You're saying you're forgiving the person, so you may as well work it out and forgive them, let it go. I know it's easier said than done, but people got to decide what you got to decide what you gonna weigh. What you gonna do? Is you gonna leave? Is you gonna work it out? What you gonna do? But work it out. You can't be telling everybody all your business, and gossiping to your spouse about other family members. And I have to be very careful with that, and just be aware when I'm talking about family, how I'm talking about family, because not only is my spouse listening, but God is listening. And all that stuff I'm spitting out to my spouse or about my spouse, God is watching, and he's taking note, and it's a reflection of my heart. So I have to be very careful what comes out of my mouth about people, and to my spouse about people. It's yeah, constantly being aware of yourself. Financial witchcraft, using money for control. A lot of people doing that. Hinting instead of addressing a person. Uh which is, I thought that was an interesting one for with everybody that's all over social media now. Everybody talking about somebody without actually talking about them, but God knows who you're talking about. And a lot of times the person you talking about know you talking about them. So instead of just talking to them directly, you rather put it all over social media, and it's very immature. But a lot of people do it with social media being so popular now. Everybody talking about somebody. And I do my best to talk directly to people. I'm not going to go on social media and put them on blast. Any situations I've shared, I've discussed with the individuals personally beforehand, because people ain't stupid. Um, Weaponized incompetency, pretending you can't do something that you're able to do, and not taking responsibility for your own actions. And it's a lot of people that do that too. Pretend like they can't do stuff to get their spouse to do something for them. That's very common. And it's a form of witchcraft, where you don't want to do for yourself, you want to make people do for you. And family members do this too. To all of us. Everybody has a family member that has played like they can't do this, can't do that in order to get you to do it. It's witchcraft. You gotta stay away from these people. What my mother-in-law be saying: if you find a sucker, bump his fucking head. And that's what people are doing. They think if they think you a sucker, they're gonna play you every step of the way. So you got to be watching and praying. Uh trying to override someone else's will. And when someone says no, they don't want to do something, and you try to manipulate the situation using guilt tactics or what have you to get them to do what you want them to do, is what that is. I do my best to not force, especially my husband, he's a grown man, not make my husband do nothing he don't want to do. I make the suggestion, and it's his decisions between him and God and what they decide to do with that information. But a lot of people will use guilt and emotions to get people to do what they want them to do, and it's witchcraft. Anything that we do to manipulate a situation to get people to do what we want them to do is witchcraft. Playing the victim, ooh lord, there's so much of that going on. Refusing to take responsibility, uh that is very common, and I'm hearing that so often, and with so many black folks, this victim mentality. Oh, we came over here as slaves, and we're, black people are poor, and all of this stuff. And it's like, a lot of us are not. And nobody, not one of us that's alive right now, came in here on a slave ship. So that is irrelevant. Don't be a victim. Don't be a victim. Twisting the scriptures. Ooh, because the devil knows the word, honey. The devil knows the word better than any human being. And he absolutely will use it to twist the words of God to manipulate you. And I talked about this too. I am not going to try to defend my sin using the word. And that's what a lot of people do. And when I know I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Sin is sin. I'm not going to try to justify my sin, and I'm definitely not going to use the word to do so. I've thought about it, but that's demonic. I ain't going to be listening to my thoughts 100% of the time. But so don't twist the word. Fear tactics, where people are walking around on eggshells, walking around on eggshells around you, afraid to speak their mind, can't do this, can't do that, because they're afraid that you're gonna go up into an outrage. That is witchcraft. Where people can't walk around in peace around you. It's a constant tensity when you're around, when people are uneasy when you're around. That is witchcraft. So if you're in a work environment, this is a perfect example for people in work environments. If you're in a work environment and you see people that are so negative, their negativity is just oozing from them, and it's physically uncomfortable when they come around. You can like feel the thickness of their darkness, is what it is. That is a witch or a warlock walking around with their darkness, filling their environment. So people of God, your light has to be so bright and so strong to cut through that darkness, especially at work. In your own house, absolutely. That's why my mother-in-law being an uproar, honey. You is not going to be bringing around your negativity, stirring up and darkening her atmosphere. And that's how you have to be with the devil. You have to be louder and bigger than the demons, because that devil will do anything and everything he can to shut you up, to keep your environment dark and unpeaceful. So being aware of those things. Yes, witchcraft, ruining marriages, honey. Just simple hatred, just basic hatred for each other, not showing true love. And it's just as simple as that. People is just looking for love.